we'll take a look at Keychron's attempt at making a 65% mechanical keyboard, that is the K6. Keychron now has hot swap versions of their keyboards, making them even more interesting, so let's see if this K6 is worth considering. The box it came in looks very good, being all black with nice branding. You'll find the keyboard, a braided USB-C cable with an angled connector, replacement keycaps for Mac and Windows, and a few add-ons, a switch puller, and a wire keycaps puller. It's cool that they include replacement keycaps to get rid of the orange accent keys if you don't like them. The keyboard has a bunch of configuration options. It can come with a bare-bone plastic case, but also with an aluminum frame for an additional $10. Mine came without them, and I think it looks slightly unfinished with the plastic rails all around, clearly meant for those aluminum bars. The cheapest option has white LEDs in a plastic case, but mine is the variant with RGB LEDs. This all-plastic build weighs in at around 1.2 pounds or 540 grams. All the ports and controls are on the left side. There is a USB-C port. I like having it on the side as it really pushes the cable to the side more than at the back. Then there are two switches. The one nearest to the USB port is meant to switch between a Mac and Windows layout. I personally leave it on the Windows mode even on a Mac, as that's how all mechanical keyboards act on a Mac, so that's what I'm used to. Then there is a switch to alternate between off, cable connectivity, and Bluetooth connectivity. I'm not sure why there is a cable and off mode though. I don't see why I'd turn off the keyboard while connected over USB. Finally, at the bottom, there are flip-out feet with two heights for a total of 3 angle presets. That's a nice touch as not all small form factor keyboards have them. There are 4 rubber pads in contact with the surface with all angle options, so that's great. As usual with Keychron keyboards, the chin is quite tall, so most people would benefit from a wrist rest with this unit, although I used the keyboard for a few days at work for full days and didn't experience any sort of wrist fatigue. This keyboard has a standard 65% NC layout, although it's not 100% standard like most 65% keyboards. Right side modifiers are narrower at 1 unit wide, and you need a 1.75 unit wide right shift key. Most keycap sets accommodating other layouts should have these additional keycaps. Where you might need to compromise is for the navigation keys at the rightmost column. These will likely not have the right profile for the row they are at, so you might need to replace them with novelties or blank keys for it to make sense. As for keycaps, I like how they look and the overall theme, but that's pretty much it. They are made from cheap ABS with laser etched legends, and they feature an OEM profile. They will shine over time and the legends will fade. I believe this keyboard would benefit from upgrading to keycaps with dye sublimated or double shot legends. Also, this material leaves a lot of fingerprints. Not cool. For the switches, I went with Gateron Blues. I really don't like clicky switches, but at the time, that was the only configuration with hot swap capabilities, and I wanted that more than I disliked blues. They're not terrible, but I just prefer a quieter typing experience. As for the stabilizers, they are lightly lubed from the factory, but it doesn't really sound like it, and it's even hard to see, so I went ahead and decided to mod this keyboard a bit to see how good it can become. I wanted to install some foam to dampen the sound, so I removed all keycaps and then I removed the switches. The included tool is not the best, and it can scratch the plate. Since it's painted black, it shows quite a lot, so I used prying tools instead for the rest of the board. These are meant to pry open smartphones, and as they're plastic, they don't scratch the surface. As you can see, the PCB accepts 5-pin switches, so that's cool as you don't have to clip the extra pins on your high-quality switches. I then removed all the screws holding the PCB and plate in place. It's just a matter of lifting after that and unplugging the battery connector. The hot swap switch sockets are from Gateron, and the Bluetooth chip is soldered at the back of the PCB. There are 2 remaining screws holding the plate and PCB together at the back, but I don't recommend removing them as they are quite stiff and they strip easily. I actually had to replace one of the screws when reinstalling them. I removed all stabilizers, proceeded to disassemble them, and then cleaned the existing lube. I clipped the extra legs as they supposedly degrade the sound. Then with what is supposed to be Krytox 205 and a small brush, I lubed the inside of the stabilizer's housings. I bought the stuff on AliExpress as most keyboard shops are sold out of this lubricant, so I'm not sure if it's legit, but it did perform well in the end, so I guess it's fine. I dipped the wires in lubricant and then reassembled the stabilizers. I finally added a bit of lube where the wires clip to the plastic housing. This is a messy job, but it's my first time lubing stabs properly, so I'll likely get better with time. As for the sound dampening foam, I used this self-adhesive neoprene material. I used the same material with the Durgod Fusion and it did a great job. I installed the sheet and made it sit properly while leaving the standoffs free of foam. Unfortunately, the PCB was sitting on the foam too tightly at some places, so I had to remove it from the battery and the housing for the flip-out feet. This foam is really hard to remove and leaves a mess, so something to consider before applying it if you do the same. Then it was sitting properly with all side controls working and the USB port aligned with the cutout. I didn't want to reinstall the Gateron blue switches and I had Everglide Oreo switches waiting for a project, so I went with these. I have to say, I think these are my favorite switches of the moment. They are very tactile while not being too heavy either, and they're very smooth out of the box as well, while not being too expensive. Since this PCB supports 5-pin switches, they are holding in strong. I reinstalled the original keycaps and then proceeded with a sound test, so let's hear the difference of before the mods and after. So many things have changed between these two sound tests, but I much prefer how the keyboard sounds now. The stabilizers have much less rattle, although there is some room for improvement still. The strokes produce a lower pitch sound overall, and that's with the exact same keycaps. So the foam likely helped, and those Everglide switches are also an upgrade compared to stock Gaterons. One great thing is that even stock, there was not a lot of ping, so the mods didn't make much of a difference in that aspect, or both the Gaterons and Everglides are not subject to ping. The layers on this keyboard cannot really be modified as there is no software to remap keys yet. You get two default layouts, one for Mac and the other for Windows. They are really similar as they pretty much only swap the control and Windows or command keys, as well as the default function row controls. Function 1 and the number row will give you multimedia keys as well as the typical Mac shortcut keys when using the Mac layout, and then function 2 and the number row will actually translate to regular function keys. One little detail that was really important for me is that the key at the right of the spacebar can either be mapped to Control or Alt, and I really need it to be Alt. So to switch between these two default mappings, you need to hold function 1, K and R for 4 seconds. As for the light effects, they cannot be modified, but there is a bunch on board and you can at least pick the color. The light key will iterate over all available light effects, the brightness can be adjusted with function 1 and then 5 or 6, then the color can be changed with function 1 and the left and right arrow keys. To completely turn on or off the lights, you can hit function 1 plus the light key, something you might want to consider if you plan on using it wirelessly. To do so, you need to switch the toggle to the Bluetooth mode, and to pair with devices, you hold down function 1 with Q, W, or E for 4 seconds, mapping this device to one of the 3 Bluetooth profiles. I had no issues pairing the keyboard to my MacBook, and this laptop doesn't have super stable Bluetooth. And then for general typing, it was performing as expected with no major latency, nor mixed up keys. The latency was a bit more obvious on Mac, as on my iPhone, it was super reactive. As always, for gaming, using the keyboard wired would be the best option to prevent unpredictable lag. Switching between devices was alright, you can expect to wait between 3 to 5 seconds until you can start typing on the next device. I haven't used the keyboard extensively on Bluetooth, but its battery has a capacity of 4000 mAh, which is a lot. Most Bluetooth mechanical keyboards come with a sub 2000 mAh battery, so you can expect this keyboard to last for a while on Bluetooth, especially if you don't use the backlighting and leave the auto sleep mode on. So in conclusion, I really like this keyboard. If you're looking for a mechanical keyboard that has great support for Mac and Windows and a good battery life over Bluetooth, this one is a great option. My unit is selling for $89 and I would go with the aluminum version if possible for a more premium look. This build would be $100, which I think is reasonable for what you're getting. I would highly recommend the hot swappable variant at least, as you're limited to 3 switch options otherwise, and I believe it'll make this keyboard more interesting as your taste in switches evolve. As for downsides, it's not reprogrammable, the light effects cannot be edited, the stock keycaps are not high quality, and the stock plastic case isn't premium or anything. All things that don't matter too much for me in a 65% keyboard under $100. So that wraps it up for today. As always, I'll have affiliate links to this keyboard down below, but also to all the parts I used in the modding steps of this video. So thank you for watching, make sure you leave a like if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, as I'll see you in a future video.